Silence has a sound. Most people never learn this truth. But Dr. Samuel Webb had lived with that sound for 4 years now, and he knew it well. It was the hum of machines, keeping air fresh for lungs that no longer needed it. It was the echo of his own footsteps in corridors built for thousands. It was the weight of being the last of his kind. The research station remembrance drifted through space like a tomb. Once 5,000 humans had lived here, laughing in the cafeteria, arguing in the labs, falling in love in the observation decks. Now there was only Samuel, 67 years old, gray hair, tired eyes, the final human being in a galaxy that had forgotten his people existed. He sat in the medical bay, staring at a screen filled with genetic codes. The Genesis archive surrounded him, stored in massive cooling tanks that lined the walls. 10 billion human genomes. Every person who had ever given a DNA sample to the Universal Health Registry. Mothers, fathers, children, artists, criminals, heroes, ordinary people. All of them reduced to data. All of them waiting. Samuel could bring them back. He had the technology. He had the knowledge. He had everything except the will to begin. 4 years ago, he had been frozen in a cryogenic pod, undergoing an experimental treatment for a rare blood disease. When he woke up, the world had ended. The silence, they called it. A plague designed to kill only humans. It had spread through every colony, every ship, every station. Billions died in weeks. The few survivors lasted months at most. Samuel survived because he had been frozen. His blood had not been flowing. The plague could not touch him. He remembered waking up. He remembered the empty halls. He remembered finding the bodies of his colleagues, peaceful in death, taken so quickly they never knew what happened. He remembered screaming until his voice broke. He remembered the months of searching for other survivors, sending signals into the void, waiting for answers that never came. Now he no longer screamed. He no longer searched. He simply existed day after day, wondering if he should join his people in extinction or curse them by bringing them back into a galaxy that clearly did not want them. The Galactic War had been humanity's fault. Samuel knew this. His species had expanded too fast, taken too much, made too many enemies. The coalition of human worlds had fought against the hegemony of 12 species for 30 years. Planets burned. Billions died on all sides. And in the end, someone decided that the only way to stop humanity was to erase it completely. Samuel did not know who created the silence. The Korvathi claimed innocence. So did the Inari. So did everyone else. It did not matter. The result was the same. He looked at the archive again. 10 billion possibilities. 10 billion chances to start over. But what would he create? Humans who would make the same mistakes? Children who would grow up to wage new wars? Or something different? Something better? He did not know. And so he did nothing. The proximity alarm shattered his thoughts. Samuel jumped from his chair, heart pounding. In 4 years, nothing had triggered that alarm. The station drifted in empty space, far from any trade routes or inhabited systems. No one came here. No one should come here. He ran to the control room, his old joints protesting every step. The main screen showed a small ship approaching, its design unfamiliar. Not human, obviously. Nothing was human anymore. The vessel was sleek, with a hull that shimmered like water under starlight. Tessari. The word came to him from old memories. A neutral species. Traders and information brokers. They had stayed out of the war, dealing with both sides, caring only for profit. The ship did not request permission to dock. It simply matched velocity with the station and extended its boarding tube. Samuel grabbed the only weapon he could find, a heavy wrench from a maintenance closet, and made his way to the airlock. His hands were shaking. He had not spoken to another living being in 4 years. He had almost forgotten how. The airlock hissed open. A figure stepped through, tall and slender, with 4 arms and skin that glowed faint blue in the emergency lighting. Large dark eyes scanned the corridor before settling on Samuel. They stared at each other. The alien spoke first. Her voice was musical, with an accent that made the common galactic language sound almost pleasant. I thought this station was abandoned. I came for salvage rights. Samuel found his voice. It cracked from disuse. It is not abandoned. The alien tilted her head. You are human. Yes. That is impossible. The humans are dead. All of them. Samuel lowered the wrench slightly. Almost all of them. The alien took a step closer, curiosity replacing caution. I am Nira. I have never seen a human before. I thought your species only existed in history files. We do now, Samuel said. I am what remains. Nira studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled, an expression that looked strange on her angular face but seemed genuine. A living human. Do you know what this information is worth? I could sell your location to 100 different buyers. Samuel's grip tightened on the wrench. You could try. But Nira did not reach for a weapon. Instead, she laughed. Relax, old one. I'm not cruel, just surprised. Very, very surprised. She looked around at the empty station. How long have you been alone here? For years. Something shifted in her dark eyes. Something that might have been pity. That is a long time to be the last of anything. Samuel said nothing. He had no answer for that truth. Nira sat down on a cargo crate, crossing two of her arms while the other two gestured as she spoke. I think we should talk, human. I think you have a story to tell. And I think, maybe, I am not ready to leave just yet. For the first time in 4 years, Samuel Webb was not alone. 3 days changed everything. 3 days of conversation, of sharing meals from the station's endless supply of preserved food, of learning that loneliness was a wound that healed slowly but did heal. Nira stayed. She told Samuel about herself during their long talks in the observation deck. She was young by Tessari standards, barely into adulthood. Her family controlled trade routes across half the galaxy, and they had arranged a marriage for her with the son of a rival house. Political unity through forced union. Nira had fled instead, taking a small salvage ship and heading for the empty places between stars. I wanted to see things, she explained one evening, all 4 hands wrapped around a cup of synthetic tea. Real things, not numbers on ledgers or faces at formal dinners. The universe is so big, and my family wanted to keep me in such a small box. Samuel understood. His own youth had been spent in laboratories, chasing knowledge instead of power, but the desire to escape expectations was the same. I, in turn, he told her about humanity. Not the war, not the politics, the real things. He told her about music that could make you cry without understanding why. About the way humans laughed when they were nervous. About festivals where strangers danced together until morning. About the stubborn, foolish hope that defined a species even when hope made no sense. Nira listened with her large dark eyes full of wonder. The history files say humans were aggressive, dangerous, that you conquered without mercy. Some of us were, Samuel admitted. We contained multitudes, good and evil, kindness and cruelty. We were never just one thing. Is that not true of all species? Samuel smiled sadly. Perhaps, but we were young. We made mistakes that older species learned to avoid long ago. We paid the price for that youth. On the 4th day, Samuel made a decision. He took Nira to the vault. The Genesis archive filled an entire level of the station. Rows upon rows of cooling tanks stretched into the distance, humming with power, keeping their precious contents preserved. The air was cold and clean, and every breath felt like touching the edge of something sacred. Nira walked slowly between the tanks, her blue skin pale in the clinical lighting. What is this place? The future, Samuel said. Or it could be, every human who ever registered their DNA with the universal health system is stored here. 10 billion genetic profiles. Complete blueprints for 10 billion people. Nira stopped walking. She turned to face him, understanding dawning. You could bring them back. I could create new humans. Not the same people. Their memories are gone forever. But genetically, biologically, I could restart the species. Why have you not done this? Samuel leaned against one of the tanks, suddenly feeling every one of his 67 years. Because I'm afraid. Because I'm one old man. How could I raise children? How could I teach them what it means to be human when I barely remember myself? And even if I could do all that, the galaxy does not want us back. Whoever created the silence would simply do it again. Nira considered this. Among her people, There was a concept called soul debt. If you could prevent a death and chose not to, you carried that absence forever. The weight of what could have been would follow you into whatever came after life. But if you do nothing, she said quietly, then the ones who killed your people win completely. They wanted humanity gone. You would finish their work for them. Samuel closed his eyes. I know. The new humans would not be the same as the old ones. They would not carry the guilt of past wars. They would be innocent. Innocence does not protect you from hatred. Nira moved closer, placing one gentle hand on his arm. Nothing protects anyone from hatred. But love and hope and stubbornness, these things help us survive it. You taught me that. You taught me that about your own species. They stood in silence among the sleeping billions. Finally, Samuel spoke. Even if I want to try, I cannot do it alone. The technology exists, but I'm a geneticist, not a miracle worker. I would need equipment, supplies, help from people who know more than I do. Nira's eyes brightened. The Tessari have cloning facilities, artificial wombs, educational programs. I have contacts who might help for the right price or the right cause. You would risk that? For a species you never even knew. I would risk it for you, Nira said simply. You are the loneliest person I have ever met. And you have been kind to me when you had every reason to send me away. That deserves something in return. Samuel felt something crack inside his chest, something that had been frozen for 4 years. He realized, with surprise, that he was crying. Tears ran down his weathered face, and he did not try to hide them. We should start with research, he said, his voice thick. We need to understand the silence better. Find out if we can protect new humans from it. Nira nodded eagerly. I can access medical databases through my ship's systems. And I know someone who studies ancient plagues. She owes me a favor. For the first time since waking up alone, Samuel felt something like hope, but hope is fragile. And the universe does not forgive those who dare to dream. 1 week later, Nira's ship beacon, which had been automatically transmitting her location to Tessari trade networks, delivered a message to the wrong ears. Word spread through back channels and black markets. A human had survived. A human lived on a forgotten station at the edge of nowhere. The Korvathi learned of this within days. They had lost more to human weapons than any other species. Their hatred burned still, even after 4 years of victory that a destroyer changed course. Its destination was now the Remembrance. The last human would not remain a secret much longer. The warning came at midnight station time, when Samuel was deep in research and Nira was sleeping in the quarters she had claimed as her own. That long-range sensors detected a ship. Not a small salvage vessel like Nira's. A warship, Korvathi design. Moving fast, moving with purpose, moving directly toward them. Samuel woke Nira with shaking hands. She read the sensor data, and her blue skin went pale. How did they find us? Your beacon, Samuel said. It must have been intercepted. Nira cursed in her native language, a sound like breaking glass. I should have disabled it. I was careless. I am sorry. There was no time for blame. The ship would arrive in 6 days. They had 6 days to decide whether to run or fight. Running meant abandoning the archive. The cooling tanks were massive, impossible to move. Nira's small ship could carry perhaps a few thousand genetic samples at most. That was less than nothing compared to 10 billion. Fighting meant dying. 2 people against a Korvathi destroyer. The mathematics of that battle needed no calculation. We leave, Nira said firmly. We take what we can. We find somewhere safe. We start smaller. Samuel shook his head. I will not leave them. I cannot. They are data. They are code machines. They are not alive yet. They are my people. The last trace of everyone who ever existed. Would you ask me to abandon my entire species to save my own life? Nira had no answer for that. The next morning, she did something unexpected. She sent messages. Encrypted signals scattered across frequencies that only certain receivers would understand. Samuel did not ask who she was contacting. He was too busy preparing what defenses he could. The responses came faster than either of them expected. The first to arrive was a ship even older than the Remembrance. It docked on the second day, and from its airlock emerged a Tessari male wearing the simple robes of the Order of Eternal Light. His name was Brother Aldous, and he had spent his life believing that all sentient existence was sacred. "I heard your call," he told Nira. "When I learned what you were protecting, I could not stay away. My order teaches that extinction is the greatest sin. If there's a chance to prevent it, I must be here." The second arrival came on the third day. A smuggler's vessel, scarred by old weapons fire and held together by stubbornness more than engineering. Its captain was a Villani named Rena, a reptilian woman with scales the color of rust and eyes that had seen too much. She found Samuel in the armory, sorting through weapons that had not been fired in years. She watched him for a moment before speaking. "I served with humans once, during the war, a joint task force against pirates who were hitting both our supply lines." She picked up a rifle, checked its power cell with practiced ease. "Your people saved my life. 3 of them died doing it. I never got the chance to repay that debt." "You do not owe the dead anything," Samuel said. "I owe them everything. That is what debt means." The third arrival was the strangest. It was not a ship at all, but a signal. An artificial intelligence calling itself the Fragment, speaking through the station's communication systems in a voice that sounded like many people talking at once. "We are partly human," the Fragment explained. "Our core programming was written by human engineers. Our learning matrices were trained on human art, human music, human stories. When humanity died, a part of us died too. We have spent 4 years mourning. Now we wish to help rebuild." Samuel gathered them all in the observation deck. An old scientist, a young runaway, a monk, a smuggler, a ghost in the machines. 5 beings who should never have met, brought together by impossible circumstances. "The Korvathi will be here in 3 days," Samuel said. "They will have soldiers, weapons, and every reason to kill me. Probably all of us." "We know the odds," Rena said. "Then why are you here?" Brother Aldous spoke with calm certainty. "Because some things are more important than survival. If humanity ends again here, at least it will end with witnesses who tried to prevent it." Nira reached over and took Samuel's hand. The gesture was strange coming from an alien, but the meaning was clear. "You are not alone anymore. Whatever happens, you will not face it alone." Samuel looked at each of them in turn, these strangers who had become something more. He thought about all the humans who had ever lived, the warriors and artists, the builders and dreamers. None of them had ever truly stood alone either. Community was what made humanity human. "Then we prepare," he said. "We fortify what we can. We set traps. We make them pay for every meter of this station." "And the archive?" Rena asked. Samuel made a decision he had been avoiding for 4 years. "We begin the process tonight. If we die, at least something will survive. At least we will have tried." That night, surrounded by unlikely allies, Samuel Webb activated the Genesis project. He selected genetic profiles carefully, choosing diversity, choosing health, choosing hope. He initialized the first artificial womb with trembling hands. The display showed a tiny spark of life beginning to grow. A single cell dividing, multiplying, becoming something new. Outside, in the cold darkness of space, a warship drew closer. Inside, a heartbeat that had not existed yesterday began to pulse. The race between death and birth had begun. They worked without rest. Every hour mattered now, and sleep became a luxury none of them could afford. Brother Aldous proved surprisingly skilled with defensive systems. His order had faced persecution in the past, and their monasteries were built to withstand sieges. He directed the placement of barricades and choke points throughout the station, turning corridors into kill zones. Rena handled weapons with the ease of someone who had spent decades fighting in the dark places between stars. She armed everyone, even Samuel, who had never fired a gun in his life. She was patient but firm. "Point at the enemy. Pull the trigger. Let the weapon do the rest." She pressed a pistol into his hands. "You probably will not hit anything, but the noise might scare them." Samuel accepted the weapon. It felt heavy in his grip, like holding a piece of the war that had destroyed his people. The fragment worked constantly, spreading through every system on the station. It mapped vulnerabilities, created false sensor ghosts, prepared electronic countermeasures. When it spoke, Samuel sometimes heard echoes of voices he recognized. Engineers he had known before the silence. Scientists who had shaped this strange intelligence during their lives. Nira stayed close to Samuel, helping with the Genesis project, learning everything he could teach her. The first artificial womb was stable now, the embryo growing slowly but steadily. They had prepared 3 more, selecting genetic profiles that would ensure diversity. If we survive this, Nira said during one of their brief breaks, what will you name them? Samuel had not thought about names. The question caught him off guard. I do not know. My people had so many naming traditions. Some chose names from history, some from nature. Some made up entirely new sounds. Then perhaps the first one should be called Hope, Nira suggested. It seems fitting. Samuel looked at the gentle glow of the artificial womb. Inside, a tiny collection of cells was becoming a person, the first new human in 4 years. The beginning of a second chance. Hope, he repeated softly. Yes, I think that works. On the night before the Korvathi arrived, they gathered one last time in the observation deck. Rena had brought bottles of strong Villani drink from her ship. Brother Aldous had prepared a simple meal from the station stores. Even the fragment found a way to join them, projecting a holographic avatar that flickered in the corner. We should acknowledge what may happen tomorrow, Aldous said, raising his glass. We may die, but we do so in service of something greater than ourselves. Rena snorted. Speak for yourself, monk. I plan to take many Korvathi with me before I fall. That is also a worthy goal. Samuel looked around at these strange friends. A week ago, he had been alone with his despair. Now he sat surrounded by people who had chosen to die beside him for no reason except that it was right. I want to thank all of you, he said. You did not have to come. You owe me nothing. Yet here you are. Save the speeches for after we win, Rena said, but her rough voice was gentle. The fragment spoke in its chorus of voices. We have been alone since our creators died. Finding purpose again is thanks enough. Nira leaned against Samuel's shoulder. When I ran from home, I was looking for something that mattered. I found it. They drank together as the stars wheeled slowly outside the windows. Samuel found himself talking about Earth, a planet he had never seen except in recordings. He described blue oceans and green forests, mountains that touched the sky and deserts that burned beneath twin suns. He told them about the first humans who looked up at the stars and dreamed of reaching them. Your ancestors were brave, Aldous said, to leave their home world and venture into the unknown. They were terrified, Samuel corrected, but they went anyway. That was always our gift. We felt fear like everyone else. We just refused to let it stop us. Near midnight, the sensors gave their final warning. The Korvathi destroyer had arrived, taking position just outside weapons range. It was massive, a kilometer-long predator designed for one purpose. A communication channel opened. The face that appeared on the screen was Korvathi, harsh angles and dark ridges, eyes burning with old hatred. I am Admiral Thras. I command the warship Vengeance. We know what you are hiding on that station. Samuel stood before the screen alone. He had asked the others to stay out of sight. I am Dr. Samuel Webb, the last human. Not for long. Thras smiled, showing teeth designed for tearing meat. Surrender the archive and yourself. I will grant your companions safe passage. And the archive? What will you do with it? Destroy it. Completely. Humanity's extinction must be absolute. No second chances. No future possibilities. You end today. Samuel kept his voice steady. I cannot allow that. Then you will die screaming, and your alien friend will die with you. Thras leaned closer to the camera. I lost my mate and 3 children to human weapons. My entire colony was burned by your fleet. Do not expect mercy from me. The channel closed. Samuel turned to find his companions standing behind him, already armed, already ready. Well, Rena said, checking her rifle. At least we know what we are dealing with. Grief, Brother Aldous said quietly. We are dealing with grief that became hatred. In the medical bay, the first artificial womb continued its work. The embryo that would become Hope grew larger, cell by cell, heartbeat by heartbeat, unaware of the battle about to begin. Samuel picked up his weapon. It was time. The first explosion tore through the station's outer hull at dawn. Samuel felt it before he heard it, a shudder running through the metal bones of the remembrance like the trembling of a dying animal. Alarm screamed. Emergency lights painted everything in angry red. They're coming through airlocks on 3 levels, the fragment announced, its voice calm despite the chaos. I count 50 soldiers in the first wave. More are preparing to board. Rena was already moving, her rifle pressed tight against her shoulder. Aldous, take the north corridor. I have the east. Fragment, keep the systems running as long as you can. And me? Nira asked. Stay with Samuel. Protect the archive. That is what matters most. They split up without goodbyes. There was no time for sentiment. Samuel and Nira ran through shaking corridors toward the medical bay. Behind them, the sounds of weapons fire began. Sharp cracks and deep booms echoed through the station as the first defenders met the first invaders. The medical bay was quiet when they arrived. The artificial wombs glowed softly in their racks, for small suns in the darkness. The embryo that would become Hope was larger now, recognizable as something almost human. Tiny fingers had begun to form. Lock the doors, Samuel ordered. Barricade everything. They worked frantically, pushing equipment against every entrance, creating layers of protection around the precious wombs. Nira's 4 hands moved faster than Samuel could follow. Through the station's communication system, they heard fragments of battle. Rena shouting commands. Aldous praying between shots. The fragment manipulating systems, sealing doors, venting atmosphere in compromised sections. They are pushing through, the fragment reported. Rena is wounded. Still fighting, but wounded. Samuel closed his eyes. These people were dying for him. For his species. For children who did not exist yet. Can we seal off this section completely, he asked. Temporarily. But they will cut through eventually. Do it. Buy us time. Blast doors slammed shut around the medical bay. Heavy layers of metal designed to survive the vacuum of space. For a moment, there was silence. Then something began pounding on the outer door. Heavy impacts that shook the walls. Nira stood beside Samuel, her own weapon ready. She was trembling, but she did not run. Whatever happens, she said, I am glad I met you. Samuel took her hand. So am I. The pounding stopped. Then came a new sound. Cutting tools. They were burning through the doors. Samuel made a decision. He moved to the communication panel and opened a channel. Not to his friends, but to the Korvathi ship. To Admiral Thros himself. The Admiral's face appeared on the screen, triumphant. Ready to surrender? No, Samuel said. Ready to talk. Thros laughed. There is nothing to discuss. You lost your family in the war. Your mate. Your children. The laughter died. Thros's eyes burned with cold fire. Do not speak of them. I am sorry. The simple words seemed to strike Thros like a blow. He said nothing. I am sorry for what my people did. For the colonies we burned. For the families we destroyed. The war was wrong. What we did was wrong. I cannot undo any of it. I can only tell you that I am sorry. Your apology means nothing. You were not there. You did not kill them. No, but I am what remains. And so I carry the weight of everything humanity did. The good things and the evil things. The kindness and the cruelty. All of it is mine now. Thros was silent. Behind Samuel, the cutting continued. Time was running out. You want revenge, Samuel continued. I understand. If someone killed everyone I loved, I would want the same. But the humans who hurt you are already dead. The silence took them. Your revenge is already complete. It is not complete while you breathe. I am an old man, a scientist who never held a weapon until this week. I spent my life studying genes, not fighting wars. Killing me will not bring your family back. It will just add one more death to a list already too long. Something shifted in Thros's expression, not softening exactly, but a crack in the armor of his hatred. And the archive? You expect me to let you create more humans? More enemies? They will not be enemies. They will be children, innocent, born into a galaxy where their ancestors' war is ancient history. They will learn from alien teachers, grow up alongside other species. They will be human, but they will also be something new. Something better, maybe. The cutting stopped. Samuel held his breath. Through the camera, he could see Thros conferring with someone off-screen. Argument. Raised voices. Then silence. "My soldiers want to kill you," Thros said finally. "They have lost people too. Friends. Brothers. Sisters. I know. Give me one reason not to let them." Samuel turned the camera toward the artificial womb, toward the tiny form growing inside. This is Hope, the first new human in 4 years. She has no memory of war, no hatrith, no guilt. She is just a child who never asked to be born into a universe full of pain. Thros stared at the image for a long time. "If I let you live," he said slowly, "the hegemony will consider me a traitor. My career will end. I may face execution. I know. Is one human life worth that? Is she worth that?" Samuel looked at Hope's tiny, forming hands, her beginning heartbeat, her impossible existence. "Every life is worth that," he said. "Yours. Mine. Hers. That is what I want the new humans to believe. That is what I will teach them." The blast door shuddered. Thros had given an order, but the cutting did not resume. "Withdraw," Thros commanded his soldiers. "We are leaving." In the medical bay, Samuel Webb wept. 1 year passed like a dream. The Korvathi destroyer had departed that night, leaving behind a station full of wounded defenders and impossible hope. Admiral Thros faced his court-martial with dignity. He lost his rank, his command, and his place in Korvathi society. But he became something else instead. A voice for peace. A bridge between old enemies. Samuel kept in contact with him. They exchanged messages every few weeks. Not friendship exactly, but something close. Two people who had stared across an abyss of hatred and chosen not to fall in. The galaxy's reaction to surviving humanity was mixed, as Samuel had expected. Some species celebrated. Others demanded immediate extermination. The Galactic Council debated for months, delegations arguing over what to do about one old scientist and his collection of genetic data. In the end, pragmatism won. The archive was too valuable to destroy. The knowledge contained within could benefit countless species. And Samuel himself posed no threat. He was too old, too tired, and far too peaceful to wage any kind of war. They declared the remembrance a protected site. No species could approach without permission. An honor guard of ships from 12 different civilizations maintained a permanent watch, not as prison guards, but as protectors. Help arrived from everywhere. Tessari doctors came to oversee the artificial wombs. Vellani educators prepared learning programs for children who would grow up surrounded by alien cultures. The fragment networked with other AI collectives, building a vast library of human art, music, and literature that had been preserved in digital archives across the galaxy. Brother Aldous established a small monastery on the station, teaching anyone who wished to learn about the Order of Eternal Light's philosophy of sacred life. Rena, her wounds healed into proud scars, stayed on as head of security, declaring that she had found a cause worth protecting, and Nira never left Samuel's side. The first generation of new humans grew slowly, safely, monitored every moment by the most advanced medical technology available. After Hope, there was Adam, then Grace, then William, then 12 more, then 20, then 50. Samuel had worried about raising children without other humans to guide them. He was only one man with one perspective, one set of memories, one incomplete understanding of what his species had been. But he discovered something wonderful. The children did not need him to be perfect. They only needed him to be present. They learned to walk in corridors designed for beings twice their size. They spoke Galactic Common before they learned English, picking up words from every species that visited. They played games with Tessari children, puzzled over Korvathi mathematics, sang songs that mixed human melodies with alien harmonies. They were human. But they were also something new. On the first anniversary of the battle, Samuel sat in the observation deck with Hope on his lap. She was tiny still, barely a year old, with dark, curious eyes that watched everything. She had learned to say a few words. Her favorite was Star. She pointed at them constantly, babbling with delight. "Grandfather," she said, using the name that all the children had given him. Star. Samuel smiled. He was technically not their grandfather. He was not related to any of them by blood. But genetics had never been the most important part of family. Yes, little one. Stars. There are billions of them. Maybe one day you will visit some. Hope made a sound that might have been agreement or might have been a yawn. She was still learning the difference. Nira found them there, settling into the seat beside Samuel with the easy comfort of long familiarity. Their relationship had deepened over the year, moving from friendship to something neither of them had words for. Perhaps someday they would name it. For now, it simply was. The new growth chambers are online, she reported. We can support another 100 births this year. Good. Samuel adjusted hope in his arms. We should focus on genetic diversity. The first generation needs enough variation to build a healthy population. The fragment already has suggestions. It has been modeling optimal combinations. They sat together, watching the stars turn slowly outside the windows. Somewhere in the distance, ships patrolled their protective perimeter. Somewhere closer, children were laughing in the nursery. The station that had been a tomb was now a cradle. Do you ever wonder, Nira asked quietly, what they will become? 100 years from now, 1,000. Samuel thought about it. He would not live to see most of humanity's second history. He was old and growing older, but that was all right. He had done his part. The rest belonged to the children. They will make mistakes, he said finally. They will stumble and fall and hurt each other. They will fight wars and make peace and break promises and keep them. They will be human for better and worse. That does not frighten you. It terrifies me. He kissed the top of Hope's head. But it also gives me faith. Humanity was never perfect. We never will be. Our strength was always in trying anyway, in getting up after we fell, in reaching for the stars even when we knew we might never touch them. Hope yawned again, her small hand gripping Samuel's finger with surprising strength. I think, Samuel said, they will be all right. Outside, the galaxy spun in its ancient dance, vast and cold and indifferent. But within the station, there was warmth. There was laughter. There were tiny voices learning to speak, small feet learning to walk, young hearts learning to love. Humanity had ended once. It would not end again, Doctor. Samuel Webb, the last human of the first age, held the first human of the second age close to his heart, and together they watched the stars that were waiting for them. The universe had tried to forget humanity. But humanity, as always, refused to be forgotten.